All right, guys.
Hello, welcome back to the Neighborhood Watch podcast.
Milan's here with us today. Milan, introduce yourself before I start.
I mean,
yeah, that man's ugly. No, I'm playing.
That was rude.
I'm sorry. It's true though. What was I saying? Stop laughing. I'm trying to think. Oh, welcome to the GarageCast. I'm Sergio, your host for today.
When did
Real
you guys
quick.
come up with...
The GarageCast? That was you a long time ago. Somebody go back in time to figure out who coined GarageCast.
It was
it
Milan. Yeah, it was Milan.
Yeah, I don't even remember doing it, but yeah.
And you
You
wanted
haven't
to take
been here since fucking like.
It's been
Years
a
ago.
month, I think.
All right, Cameron, introduce yourself.
You already did.
Oh, I just introduced you. All right, Louie.
And
I
Louie's here.
There we go.
You introduced
Hey.
Milan and me, so you like.
Uh-oh, my bad. Sergio did an oopsie.
Uh-oh.
Today we're
One of Sergio's classic oopsie moments.
stupid.
Stupid Sergio.
What was I saying?
Womp.
What was the? That's enough now. That's enough out of you.
Anyways, about Kingdom of Heaven.
Yeah, today we watched Kingdom of Heaven. It was a
The
banger.
director's cut.
The director's cut specifically. We're gonna talk about what we noticed about the film. I'm gonna compare specifically it to like. First, I'm gonna talk about a little bit about historical accuracy and whether or not the movie could be considered historically accurate. I think to some extent, definitely it is. But for the sake of movie magic, you need to change some things. Not all the things. Sometimes people just whatever.
There's some parts that are just not accurate.
Yeah, whatsoever. And but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about how sexy the movie is and also compare it to the theatrical cut. Because if you've seen the theatrical cut of Kingdom of Heaven, you have done yourself a disservice. You've done Ridley Scott a disservice. You need to fucking erase that movie from your mind and watch the director's cut.
I was about to say you're gonna go a really weird direction. With
What do you think I was gonna say?
that. Nothing. Keep going.
Okay. So I guess to start off, we'll talk about how you guys have never seen Louis. I was about to call you Louis. Milan,
Same
you've
thing.
seen the theatrical cut, right?
White people all look
No.
the same.
You haven't
I've
seen the
only
theatrical
seen
cut?
this one.
Okay, well this is your guy, but you've seen the director's cut before,
Yeah, I've seen it like at least 7 times, I swear.
and you like it
That
every
was
single
like
time.
5 or 6 before.
Yeah.
Do you find anything new about this watch?
Well, I looked at it a little different this time.
Uh-huh.
As in, like we're gonna get into it, but I was
You noticed
noticing
things.
different things because of everyone else, like talking,
Even though he was
pointing
asleep
guys
through
out,
like
I
a third of
guess.
the
Yeah,
movie.
we talk a lot while we watch the movies. Like,
Not that much.
but like every once in a while, we'll just start having a discussion while we're watching the movie.
That's why we have subtitles though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But luckily, when it's a movie we've seen a million times, like when we did the Star Wars podcast, we literally were talking during the whole movie, but we all knew the movie beat by beat. So,
Yeah, it was fine, and we still managed to pick up everything.
Yeah.
All right, Louis. This is your first time watching it.
Yes.
Cameron's first time.
Yes.
What did you both think? Sorry, I got to burp real fucking bad.
It was it was good. It doesn't. So the director's cut is 3 hours.
Mhm.
It doesn't
Yes,
feel like
long.
3
It
hours.
is.
To me, it didn't feel like 3 hours.
Yeah, it goes by really
To
quickly.
Cameron, everything feels like 3 hours.
No, this one actually didn't feel like 3 hours.
It's an epic, and it feels like
it
an
was
epic.
really good.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. Yeah, it was good. I liked it. I don't really have any specific complaints that I can even think of.
Mhm. All right, so let's go right into. I'll address differences between the director's cut and the theatrical cut, and it's shit that you probably wouldn't even have guessed that it was possible to cut out. What would you think would be things they cut out from? Because remember, the director's cut added an extra 45 minutes of footage.
Yeah.
That is a substantial amount. What do you think they cut out? What can you imagine they cut
the
out?
talks between him and his like angel friend, maybe.
There's more than that. They
I
actually
think
left.
that
a lot
was
of
the one
stuff
thing
in.
I
They
think
left some
that
stuff
was
like that.
important. I feel like that was really important to his character.
What do you think was
Um,
unimportant enough to?
Well, I think
cut out?
what things that they might have cut out would be like building.
This is gonna blow your guys' mind.
I think building the relationship between the little kid and his mom before she has to kill him. Spoilers, I guess, but
Yeah, watch that fucking movie.
Every podcast they watch, it's a spoiler. Let's just be real here.
I mean, the movie came out in 2007, so like
2005.
2005.
Even earlier, yeah.
I literally said this.
That's
I thought you
crazy.
said 2007.
We were talking about 300, which I think
Uh,
came out 2008, 2009,
yeah.
2007, something like
Possibly.
that.
Anyways,
This one came out in 2007.
Regardless, I think their relationship is probably what would have been cut short, and I think a lot of the character building stuff earlier in the
Mhm.
film for Balin, is
Balian,
that how you pronounce it?
yeah.
Balian.
Bailey.
For
There's an I
Oh,
before
yeah.
the second A.
that's Orlando
I
Bloom's
forgot.
character. I think that a lot of the stuff earlier in the film of his would have been cut out. I feel like it would have just been like, here's the main character. Okay, now he's going to Jerusalem, instead of like all the stuff that lets you get to know him a little bit better.
Yeah, It kind of seems like that could have been
Something
left
that they
out,
would've
give
cut.
or take.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we
What
gave our
about you?
guesses.
Oh, you didn't guess at all.
Yeah, I did. I said it was just the
angel
the
thing.
angel thing.
Oh,
where,
that's
like,
right.
that was part they cut out. So go.
So you want me to tell you straight up?
Explain everything.
His brother at the beginning, the priest guy that's a douchebag,
Yes.
that's not his brother in the director's cut. They cut like virtually all of his footage, and
Really?
Bailey just killed some random dude.
What the fuck?
Secondly, they cut out the entire thing with Liam Neeson's brother being the lord of that town, and so we don't get any real interaction between Liam Neeson and his brother Lord when they were in the keep and shit. They just kind of made it seem like he was just some dude. Third of all, they took out the whole gravedigger guy. He wasn't in the movie. They cut all of his face at every single time. The director's cut feels really or the theatrical cut feels really fucking choppy. They took out all of the son from the plot. There was no son in
The whole thing?
the whole kid. There was no kid at all. They literally changed it from her having a son and her killing him and her having an interest in protecting her child
are
and
you
lepers.
serious?
Yes, that all of it was cut. All the interactions between
So then what is her character in the movie?
her character is fucking not important and trash. Literally, all she does is she just becomes emo for no reason. That's what happens.
Christ.
The movie is so cut
That
up in
takes
shit.
away
I
so
still
much
saw that
of
as a
like the
character.
meaning of it. A lot of
Yeah,
it.
I was thinking like maybe they'll take like a few things out of their relationship.
Her depth goes
but
out the window,
They
bro.
cut the whole fucking thing.
It's like a completely different film.
Yeah,
This is why I
that's
said my
stupid.
father was like, "This is a completely different fucking movie." They added so many subplots. What else did they add? There wasn't even just little things. There was huge things. The interactions between King Baldwin and there was in the theatrical cut. There's only like 2 scenes with Bailey and King Baldwin together. There wasn't even a scene where she sees her where she meets her brother to like talk to him before he dies, or maybe there is. I can't remember. That's how fucked it is that the scenes are so like
Right.
missing
Yeah.
that you can't even tell.
Yeah.
You know, the king. There's so many scenes with Bailey and the king that are just gone. Also, there's tons of scenes with Saladin.
Getting cut out.
They got cut out too.
Yeah.
The whole fucking movie just
Well,
completely
it's probably
changed.
a lot of studio executives
Exactly.
being like, oh,
Too long.
it's too long and they won't care about these people, so let's just get rid of them.
Bullshit. You know,
Bullshit.
I've said
Which
this-
honestly, he was one of the coolest characters.
Exactly.
And the
Yeah.
relationship between him and Balin was really, really
I wanted to see
interesting.
even a little bit more between them.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
not weird. I'm saying more scenes. You know what I'm saying?
Nobody was thinking that.
But I'm saying like more.
No
more
one was
I just to. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what's going on with me right now. But just more scenes to improve their their connection. Same with Liam. I one thing I always wish I had in my mind, in my head canon, I believe that there are still more scenes hidden in the depths of the Hollywood lockers with like more footage between Liam Neeson and
Yeah.
Balian.
Yeah, I was gonna say, even with this movie being 3 hours long, it felt like there was still a lot of things missing. Even,
It did.
Even for my first time watching it,
Mm-hmm.
there were certain things that I was like, that could have been like fleshed out more.
because
Like when
honestly,
characters died, I
it's
was
just
surprised.
such a huge story.
Yeah,
It
like
is.
it's
There's so much going
Was
on.
this based off of anything?
There's actually
Real
it's
life.
based on real life.
Well,
Balian,
no, I mean like the characters itself.
Balian
Like,
was a real person.
They're all real.
King Baldwin was a real
Oh.
person.
It's
Sibilla
just
was a person. The
Some
story
of the
was very
weirdness
different.
Gets like obviously like
I thought there was
just some of the relationships and
Are
things
twisted,
are just
yeah.
really.
I thought there was a book that would just like go more into the stuff. That's why they
Probably
based
history
off of
books.
it. Well, yeah, no, now you say it's real life. No shit.
roasted.
No, I don't mean like that
Yeah,
in a
Cameron,
fucked
you
way.
fucking
I didn't.
idiot.
I did not mean that in a rude way. I'm saying like some history like specific Crusader
history
books.
books, you idiot.
That's not. You guys are twisting what I said. I didn't mean it like that, Cameron. Look at
Everyone
me.
to church.
No, I'm playing. There's a lot of religious stuff too that they
Yeah.
cut out.
Well,
You okay?
that was probably studio executives saying
Yeah.
like, oh, this is too controversial. You know, like this is too like we don't want this because people are going to get upset about it.
Alexander was the same way. The film Alexander. We're not here to talk about that movie, but that movie is another perfect example, exactly like Kingdom of
Of a
Heaven,
pretty damn good movie that was just fucked.
though it's completely fucked.
Yeah.
And Alexander, I would argue Alexander's even better than Kingdom of Heaven, but because you think there's a lot of like subtle things in this film, but Alexander's got some crazy shit. So definitely keep your mind open for that. And so just I don't know, dude. Fucking be ready for more epics down the line. You guys be ready for more epics too.
All right. So what do you want to? Should we just jump into Orlando Bloom's character,
Sure, go ahead.
Balian?
Yeah, we'll talk about Balian's character.
Balian.
He's definitely our like scope to look into this world. You know what I'm saying?
So something that I thought was interesting was they didn't like his character was like the entire time just struggling with his belief in religion and what he believed and what he didn't. And like the movie wasn't clear. It was like the movie wasn't like, oh, here's this character struggling with religion, but the religion is real, but he's just struggling with it. It was like it kept the audience questioning too. Like, obviously, if you're a religious person watching this movie, you're sitting there like, why isn't he believing in it? It's so clear. Why isn't he
I didn't think of it that way, but I guess it's the other way around too.
But then someone like an atheist watching this movie would be like, why
can't
is
be
he even
stupid.
considering
exactly.
it? Like, and
Exactly.
so it's almost looking at it like I try, when we were watching, I was trying to look at it as like a fantasy world almost, and that like in Game of Thrones
does it.
They have like their religion, the different religions, and like the
And you can't really tell if it's real or not.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And
Well,
so,
it's kind of like the movie's just showing it to us
The way
from
he sees
what
it.
like he wants to
Exactly.
believe.
Exactly.
Right? Like yeah.
so like so there's certain parts
They
where,
do a really good job at that, is what you're saying.
yeah, there's certain parts where I'm sitting there watching the movie and saying like, okay, religion exists in this movie and it's real, and then there's other parts where I'm like, okay, this is very clearly showing us that religion doesn't not exist.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then also like, again, just like the hypocrisy of people who believe in religion. Like my favorite line in the movie was when
Let's rephrase that. The holy men, right? The quote unquote holy men,
Yeah,
how they
yeah.
see religion. Because religious people, like, that's the whole point, is that you don't want a middle man, you know?
Wait, say the line.
yeah,
I already know what you're gonna say.
it's the guy, I pointed out while we were watching it. It's the,
Convert to Islam.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
like, convert to Islam, we can repent later. And then he just turns and he's like, you've taught me a lot about religion, Remnants.
It's a good scene. It's a good quote.
Yeah.
What do you want to say, Cameron, too? You want to add anything before Louis goes on?
No.
God damn, Cameron.
I'm
Are you
just
saying,
here to
Louis?
listen.
That,
I'm like a therapist right now.
That's
okay?
like the most holy person standing around there was like the very least
Holy,
holy
yeah.
of all of them.
The least upstanding.
But I thought it was funny how that same character, the guy who said let's convert to Islam and we can repent later, he literally gets in an argument with like a little while before that scene, he gets in an argument with Balian, and he's like about burning the bodies, and he's like, if you burn the bodies they won't go to heaven, and he's and
Or
like,
he says, what the fuck is he says that the body, they won't be reborn until Judgment Day.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And they're like arguing back and forth, and then what does Balian say? Balian?
It was like
Really
Just
bad
say
with
it.
names.
Because he's French, don't worry.
He says he's like, if God will understand, and if he doesn't, then he's not God, or something like that. And it's like, I don't know, that's where I felt like his character started to really understand what
he thought about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, his character arc was really, really good. I felt like, and he was like,
And he was always kept simple and straightforward, you know what I'm saying?
yeah. Because I remember watching it in the beginning, one of the first things that I noticed was like they worked really hard to make him a very likable character. Like when he's in the like he becomes a lord or whatever, and he gets his land and everything. He doesn't make everyone do the work for him. He's in the ditches with them,
to
working,
do it with
and,
them.
And they didn't even make it like a really big thing. He was just there, you know. As normally I feel like movies would be, they would have like a
He's a
whole
lord.
scene where he's walking from like the camera's like down here, and he's walking with the sun behind him,
Like
and
a
then
god.
he picks up like a hatchet or something and gets to work.
Everyone's like,
But-
oh, wow, he works too.
But yeah, and then here it was just
Well, the whole
literally a
movie
shot
he
of
was
him
applying
in this
his
dirt.
skills to doing just anything.
Yeah, you mentioned as an engineer.
Yeah.
Exposition didn't really feel too expository. It felt like there was history behind
Yeah.
it, you know what I'm saying? Because there was.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I really like that that aspect of it. And then when you see the characters that are supposed to be like the holy men, like you're saying, like the religious guys, they're just like pieces of shit, you know, like the ones that are supposed to be the most holy are like the worst people. Whereas this guy who is like struggling with his faith and whether or not he believes in religion is the one that's really like a good person, which it made me feel like one of the themes in this movie was supposed to be, at least in the beginning, was that you don't need religion to be a good person, whereas all these other evil people feel like just being religious makes them good no matter what they do, whereas he's like, I'm going to be a good person to be a good person.
Like from the angel's perspective, it's not even just that, like, you don't need religion to believe in God. That's what he's trying to say, you know what I'm saying? The thing with King
Did we
Baldwin.
talk about the angel?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, we might as well.
Yeah, let's go right into the angel. There's a character that it has no name. He's a blonde dude that's with at first he's kind of the guardian angel of, I would assume, of Liam Neeson's character. He's the blonde dude with the weird fucking goatee thing or whatever. forget his name. I forget the actor that plays him, but whatever.
He was in Harry Potter. He played Professor
that's
Lupin.
right.
He played Ares in Wonder Woman.
Everybody I don't remember, Cameron remembers. But anyway, he kind of follows Liam Neeson's character around, and then when Liam Neeson, the Lord, dies, Balian he becomes Balian's guardian angel.
Bitch.
Yeah, his homie.
Yeah. Another thing that I thought was interesting about that is like you would think a character like that would wear white, but he wears all black.
Yeah, he's a Knights Hospitaller.
I mean, his skin takes care of the whiteness, dude.
That's true.
Let's be real.
He has a white cross, to be fair.
Yeah, but it's the majority of his outfit is black. I feel like he would dress more like the King's Guard
and the Templars.
The Templar.
And the Templars
were like
well, white,
led by the worst of the worst.
Yeah, the Knights
We're all
Templars
in
were
white,
pretty bloodthirsty, at least in the depiction of the film.
Yeah,
that makes me
makes
me feel like we're getting back into like the Apocalypse Now discussion again about like the hypocrisy of man. You know, like
it was definitely there.
Like the white knights that are all for
Kill
religion
the
everything.
Muslims and all that shit.
And then the guy in all black is the one that is actually like the bush scene. We should talk about
Creosote bush.
That
That's
was-
your Moses.
Yeah, that was really so. For those that haven't seen the movie, or those who don't know what we're talking about, that
Yeah,
have seen the movie.
there's a scene where Balian throws a
Yeah.
rock and a spark and ignites a bush and it catches fire, and then Balian laughs and he's like, "Ha! Religion sucks."
Yeah,
Basically, he's like, "That's your religion."
and
That's your religion.
For those who don't know anything about religion, it's a part of the Bible.
In the Bible.
Who's the
Moses
guy?
Moses is lost in the mountains and he encounters
A
a
burning
burning
bush.
bush or a
Yeah.
burning tree, and it speaks to him.
Yeah, and then so he does that, and then like makes fun of it, and then he talks to like the angel character, and
Who just happens to show up.
Yeah, who just shows up out of nowhere because the first shot shows him completely alone in this desert, and then the angel character is just there, and this is what kind of reinforces that idea of him being like an angel, and then they talk, and then the angel character like walks off, and again it's a wide open desert. There's nowhere for this guy to hide. He walks off. A second bush ignites out of nothing. Like
Yeah.
No rocks were thrown at it or anything. And then Balian's maybe. Balian. I mean, that's the thing though. Is like in a movie, the way that's
Plus, they were
sets up
pretty good
religion.
space away.
Yeah.
The
Or
two
it was
bushes.
movie magic, and someone just like
Someone else threw a rock.
But then Balin, after the second bush catches on fire, Balin looks around and the angel dude's gone. Nowhere to be found. Nowhere to be seen.
And the horse gets spooked.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The horse gets spooked, which is like a sign of like ghosts, kind of. You know.
What else was there?
But then all of that could be played out like we were saying, like the whole movie it's just showing us like his perspective of him like figuring out what he thinks about like his beliefs and everything. That could also be seen as he was in the desert and he was just
Hallucinating?
seeing things. He was hallucinating.
Maybe.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Ridley
saying?
Scott.
So like
It could've been.
I'm saying like it could just be played off either way where like
Yeah.
it was a religious thing or it was just like him.
That's how Ridley Scott does it in Exodus: Gods and Kings.
Oh yeah,
I fucking hate that
haven't
movie.
seen that movie.
It's
That
trash.
looks so stupid. Honestly.
It's like it blows my mind that he can go from a movie that's like blatantly like bridge towing the line between religion is real and religion is fake to Exodus: Gods and Kings where it's like religion's fake.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't seen that movie, so
Yeah, we're not talking.
But anyways,
It's stupid.
11.
Then the Knights Hospitaller character
he dies.
but before that he actually wakes Balian up after his fight with the Teutons with the Teutonic Order after they fuck him up. Yeah, that's where he touches him. and pokes him.
Oh, right. Yeah, that was like a really.
I'm here for
like-
you, boy. Wake up.
Yeah, that was like a blatantly like the hand of God touched
Yeah.
him. Like that
That was
was
really
like
weird.
yeah. I also liked he before he goes into battle. I mentioned a joke about it that it reminded me of the scene from Infinity War where Thor is like all words are made up, but when he's talking to
You go to your death. All death is certain.
yeah, he says all death is certain, which is like to me it was like almost like he knew that it was his time, which leads me to believe too that like maybe he's like a mortal body being controlled by some sort of angel, or he's just enlightened or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's why you wonder.
Religion.
That's the questioning now.
But what about the bush at the end that you were talking about earlier?
Well, at the end, he returns back.
To his home.
Well,
And it
this
doesn't
I'm
catch
also just
fire.
gonna drop a little comment here that we'll go back to, but the end, the whole movie, to me, has like really poor, like
Consistency.
showing passage of time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I was a little confused, but
editing.
you were there.
I mentioned it
explaining
earlier
yeah.
too.
But
The second watching, you'll understand the way they do time. Sorry to cut you off. The way they do time is they'll mention shit. They'll mention it, but like usually you'll be distracted by something tiny. So like in order to like fully get the full experience, you need to be super focused, and it's tough to do for 3 hours.
honestly, it seems like it just happened in like a month.
Yeah.
Like if you
Or less.
just like
The only apparent passage of time was the growth of the plants, and that takes time. You know, so we can assume that the film takes place over at least a year and a half or 2 years.
That's like.
But it's not immediately clear.
Yeah.
But anyways, at the end of the movie, he returns back to where his like shitty little
His
village
original
where he
house.
was in the beginning of the
Where
movie.
he was the blacksmith.
And apparently it's like a year or so later, and
Or
there's
2 or
a
3.
plant, and it's like a
there's a
callback
bush.
to the bush,
The bush scene.
and he's looking at it, and it's kind of like it just focuses on the bush, and he's kind of like, or
Expecting
I
it.
was just assuming that he's kind of waiting for it to catch fire.
That's an interesting thought.
And it just doesn't, and that's kind of like maybe like where his final like beliefs rest, like is like that was like the end of it,
Or it could be that he no longer had a mission, and so God didn't appear to him.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
See, there's multiple different ways.
Welcome back to the Bible cast.
The Bible cast. There we go.
Also, I liked you mentioned it while we were watching the movie, Sergio. That when he sees the angel character die, he doesn't see him die, but he sees his head. Yeah,
It's almost like the death of his faith. Almost.
Yeah. I thought that was an interesting point. And then after that, he goes and does his battle, which the final battle is fucking good.
Yeah, it's fun. As far as historical accuracy goes, like the final battle, sword fighting is cool in the film, but it's not accurate to real sword fighting. But it looks they do get some accurate aspects to it correctly, like the thing where he was like il poste del falcone. That's an actual guard. You know what I'm saying? It's just the way you strike from that guard isn't the way they do it in the movies.
Yeah.
That's the guard of the hawk and a bunch of other shit. Low guards are okay. Side guards, long guards, guard of the queen, shit like that.
That was something that bothered me in the very beginning when Liam Neeson was like, "Never use a low guard," and I was like, "Why?"
Low guards are good. I think it was because he was supposed to be holding it facing down or some shit. Because if you hold it facing up, that's more reasonable. But I guess Balian's character was supposed to be like pointing it down, and that's why it's bad.
Okay.
But yeah, low guards there's nothing wrong with those. Historical accuracy, like for the most part, the battle, like the actual units fighting units, you know what I'm saying? Total War kicking in. Like the actual big armies fighting big armies, they do it excellently. Because you see this done in a lot of films where, like, I don't know, not Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings does it pretty well for the most part. But like, I don't know, Game of Thrones recently, they did this shit to where it was like, where people were having individual battles in the large ocean of men. And it's like, that's not how medieval battles were fought. Especially in the time of Macedon, they strictly tell you that the reason why you want men on your own men so close to you is so that they can use their force to push against your back, so that you push against the enemies essentially, and while you're attacking and striking.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, if you have men that are loosely together, all the enemy has to do is combine and push right through your forces and envelop you from the inside and the outside. That's not how, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, there's a good in Gladiator. They
At the beginning.
Yeah, when he's like, have any of you men been in the army? And then he like explains the formation to get in, and they all like get in a little ball basically, or like a square, and with their
Testudo.
shields and everything. Yeah.
That's how formations work, essentially. You know, you need to have structure and order, or else the reason why the Romans were so successful against like the I don't know, like the Gauls and shit like that, was because the Gauls at first fought. I'm getting into history, but this is essentially me talking about how the ending of the film is one of the best medieval battles in cinema history, because it's done really well.
In your opinion.
In Europe.
In your opinion.
Yeah, I guess in my opinion, but I think hands down, straight up. Because what other medieval movie do you have to compare it to?
I mean, I'm not saying it.
Thank you, Milan.
I'm not saying it, but I'm saying that I just know that there's people out there that are going to be haters.
I guess it depends on what perspective you're looking at it from, because like you can look at it from like an accuracy standpoint and like how accurate the battle is, or you can look at it from like a filmmaking standpoint, and like you can have the one-on-one battles and like just shoot them well, and then people might be like, well, that's better than being historically accurate because this is more like stylized and whatnot. But I agree. I think as far as like
If you do it well,
historical
historical accuracy will usually look like we saw in the fight. It was straight up carnage.
Well, yeah, it was, and the struggle was like, it was
It was real.
there, yeah.
People were fucking pushing each other down and choking each other out. But that was to show the desperation, because this was it. If the Saracens breached the wall, then everybody would die. What else was there? What were we talking about?
I would like to bring up how much Cameron disliked
Sibylla?
Yeah, I didn't like her character.
Well, maybe
Because like she was saying, like you do a necessary evil for good, but I'm just like she did a necessary evil, but nothing good came out of what she did.
Yeah, she fucked herself. She thought it would do it.
I was making the joke of when she poisons her son, and I was like, "Watch this woman fuck all of Jerusalem at once."
Rename the film.
It's
true.
Extremely selfish when she was trying to force Balin or whatever the fuck his
Balin.
name is. I don't give a fuck. Everybody knows what we're talking about. But she was trying to force Balin to be her king, and I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, the king controls.
Now you're going back on what you said?
Yeah, I agree that things like that kind of sucked, but also it was within her character to do that.
Yeah.
I feel like she was a strong character.
I don't dislike her character for that. Really.
Yeah, she was
didn't like her character.
She was a strong character, but I did not like her morals.
Yeah, of course.
But that being said,
I liked her character. I just didn't like what she did. That's the point. That's how you make a good character.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
exactly.
That's how you make a good character that fucks up.
Yeah.
You still sympathize with them despite the fact that you know that they're fucking dumb.
Unless you're watching the theatrical.
Unless you're watching the theatrical. Then she has no redeeming qualities. Then she's just bad.
Then everybody will believe me.
I
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting at the very end, not the very end, right before the very end, when they're still in Jerusalem, and it's G, but it's actually like
Guy.
It's
Guy, my bad.
Guy, that's what it is. It's spelled G-U-Y, and then we made
French.
a bunch of Guy Fieri jokes, but it's
Welcome to Flavor Town.
Yeah.
Welcome to Flavor Town.
Anyways, he at the end when he attacks Balian.
Saladin?
At this point,
when he attacks Balian,
Yeah.
We all know who you're talking about, so it doesn't matter.
I just don't want to get roasted for pronouncing
Bloom.
his name wrong.
Dude, I got roasted for not knowing history books, so fucking like you're good.
They
Trust
did that.
me.
I didn't mean it.
Anyways, no, so Balian, when they fight at the end, like throughout the movie, you see them both go from like Balian's character goes from like rags to riches, kind of like when he first gets to Jerusalem, not Jerusalem, when they're gonna get to the port to go to Jerusalem. I noticed like he just got a very nice outfit compared to what he was wearing before he was basically wearing rags and like heavy rags. And then throughout the rest of the movie, he's dressed really nicely, except for when he's working in the fields. And then with Guy's character, he's kind of dressed nicely throughout the whole thing. And then at the end, when they fight, they're both in rags, and
They both were brought down to the same level.
Yeah, I just thought that was interesting, and on top of that, Balian won because he's the better man. You know, when you get brought down to the base level, and
who's a better man?
Yeah, you have, and it's man versus man or person versus person. I guess it doesn't really matter. The better one will always win, and I just thought that was
And Balian was injured throughout that fight too.
Yeah, with his wrist.
Wrist
Going
was
back to
fucked.
real quick to the very. Remember how we mentioned how they tried to make Balian seem as likable as possible?
Yeah.
He even remember how the scene where he was whacking Balian with the horse prod or whatever the fuck, with the
yeah.
horse stick or whatever, and Balian pulls it from him. He's like, "Keep it, I'll get another," and then he throws it back. And he's like, "How will you beat your horse without a stick?"
Right.
Or how will you ride if you have no stick to beat your horse with? And he throws it back at him. It was like, even he could have kept it and been petty, but he still gave it back. Shit like that, you know what I'm saying? But going back to,
it's also kind of savage.
Yeah, I wanted to.
Also, I noticed. So one thing that when we were talking about how the passage of time is kind of weird in this movie, and it doesn't present it very well in like a way that's obvious.
Go for the 5 minutes.
Yeah. So one thing that I was gonna say that would have helped with that is his like facial hair and his hair like growing longer. Like throughout the passage of time.
He just had the
However,
same thing the whole time.
I want to bring up a point that I made while we were watching the movie
Looks like Jesus.
He looks like Jesus, and I think that the reason they didn't have his hair grow longer and his beard grow longer
it
over
look
this like year and a half
more
is
like
because
Jesus?
he just continued to look like Jesus, and they didn't want to. I
What
think
would-
they did that on purpose.
I
is
feel like
what
it would have
mean.
been better if he like started out with really short hair, and then by the end of like that
It was
time where
long.
he was becoming, or everybody
Yeah.
thought
He was becoming a
Jesus, he
messianic
would've
figure.
looked
That would have been a
like
cool
Jesus.
detail.
That would have
Yeah.
been a nice detail.
But
I thought that would have shown time.
I don't know. I think it was intentional that they had him
Look like
Of
Jesus all
course.
throughout.
Yeah.
I like your idea though better though.
Yeah.
They should have started with him being some dude and
Yeah.
slowly embodying the idea of he has of Christ. You know what I'm saying?
But I don't know. It's something I noticed. I mean, like, because he has the same facial hair and hair. Or no, actually, I don't think he has a beard in
The beginning.
in the other movie that he's famous for, like the only other movie.
Lord
that
of the
he's
Rings?
famous for.
Troy?
For like
There's
three
Lord,
other
yeah, Lord of the
movies.
Rings,
No,
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Pirates
Pirates
of the Caribbean. That's what I'm thinking of. I think
Lord
he
of the
just has
Rings.
He
He has
just
a
has
good
a
Lord of the Rings,
mustache.
Troy.
Goatee.
Yeah, but he even in that movie he has his hair tied up and stuff, and he doesn't look like it. In Lord of the Rings, he's an elf, so
Yeah, he's blonde.
He's
I
an elf, no facial hair.
think he's blonde.
But in this movie, like he really like as soon as I saw his character, that was the first thing I thought
But
of.
like, really, is that really the intention?
I don't think. I mean,
It's just a coincidence.
I
That,
just
you know,
feel,
is
I really
noted.
just feel like it's just a coincidence.
It's
'cause
what
it's
us
just
film nerds do is we look past everything and forget what it's actually trying to show us.
Yeah. Otherwise, because if we actually straight up go with the whole curtain is actually blue theory, you know, and there's nothing beyond that, then it's boring.
I have no idea what that means.
You know, where it's like this curtain
like
is blue.
surface level.
This curtain is blue because it embodies the author's depression and his sorrow. And then the author's like, actually, I just wanted it to be blue.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah. Mhm. You never
look
know.
past
It's not. It's not as interesting if it's just
Yeah.
blue.
And to be fair, though, no director makes a conscious decision to be like, oh, just fucking make it that way because why not? They usually always think, how can we make a thing that makes people question?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's just
But I don't.
like
I don't think they would have made a movie called
Kingdom
Kingdom
of
of
Heaven.
Heaven that has this many religious undertones and this many things.
yeah,
referencing
but
the
I
Bible.
agree with all the rest of the religious things except for this one thing. It's just like
I just
that is
don't.
okay.
how
That's
I don't
fine.
think-
That's part of it.
I
That
don't.
was okay.
his hair would have looked.
I don't think that they would have. I think they would have been aware that people would make that connection.
Yeah.
So they would have, if they didn't want it, if they didn't want people to make that connection, they would have made him look different.
Oh, real
that's-
quick.
Except think about it. Why would they make him look different?
Oh, fuck it. Stop talking about
no,
his hair.
but think about it. No, think about
Shut
it.
up.
No, just think about it.
seriously.
One
He
thing
would
that I
look-
think we need
no.
to touch on that's very important. Sorry to cut you off, but Jesus Christ, stop with the fucking hair.
Jesus Christ.
I'm sorry, Lord. What was I saying? Redemption. It's definitely
Oh,
a
right.
tale about redemption.
Yeah.
He kills his brother. He's trying to find heaven. He's trying to seek redemption for his dead wife and his unborn child.
It also, it seems like when he leaves, his whole purpose for leaving is to save his dead wife
Uh-huh.
and unborn child from going to hell.
but he gets another goal towards the end.
But yeah, but it doesn't seem as relevant in the end.
I feel like it's
I
still
don't
relevant.
feel enough
he's
of an attachment, and I don't feel sorry enough for him about
Yeah.
that whole
Yeah.
thing.
Well, I mean, you did at the beginning, but then as time went on, it's just like, oh,
I
he does
just,
bury her cross at the
Yeah.
sepulcher,
Yeah.
and so that might actually.
That was also something that I noticed is I think he did that as like a thing to like try and get her closer to heaven, you know, because that was the first thing he did when he got to Jerusalem.
But
He
you
went
know,
straight
it's
there
kind of
and
just
buried
like
it.
he just. You
I
know,
think his
wife
real-
and kid are dead, and then he just goes and fucks this queen.
His
Yeah.
real-
well, it's called moving on.
his
That's what
real-
you
yeah,
should do.
exactly.
But it's like
His
then
real
the whole
redemption
rest of
was
the
to-
movie is focused on their relationship.
That's not what we're saying though. Like his real redemption was saving the people as a way to as a way to make up for the wrongdoings that he had done, for the wrongdoings that his wife had done, etc. You know what I'm saying? In the eyes of God or whatever. But again, it's not that like it's not that he's exactly doing it for her redemption. It's just that it's one of the many motivations. You know what I'm saying?
I think that
Mostly it's because he wants to be a just man.
yeah,
Mhm.
I think that it's more about religion than it is about that, or at least the movie makes it seem like it's more about religion than it is about his wife, you know, because like I hate to compare it to Gladiator more than once, but in Gladiator that whole movie is about his dead family, right?
Mhm.
Like that's why he's doing what he's doing.
This
It's
came
all
out
about
before.
revenge.
Gladiator came out before Kingdom of Heaven.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. But and then that's like a solid theme throughout the whole movie because he keeps like having these dreams of him like touching the grains or whatever it
In
was.
Gladiator, yeah.
When he's dreaming, and then when he finally dies, spoiler, when he finally dies at the end, he's touching the grains and he goes and sees his family, and that's like the finishing. Of
You should put a spoiler thing real quick for Gladiator and Kingdom of Heaven.
Yeah, we haven't even seen it yet, and you're already spoiling.
Yeah, he finally makes
You
it to
haven't seen
Elysium.
Gladiator?
I have not. I told
Right.
you, my parents were protective. They
He made it
didn't
to
watch anything.
he makes it to Elysium in the end.
Yeah.
Dude, my fucking childhood was Wiggles and like what's that fucking vegetable
Fruit
movie?
salad, yummy.
It's
yummy.
exactly what it was, dude.
Kill me.
Very
Yeah,
protective
Veggie
family.
Tales.
Veggie Tales,
Tales.
yeah. Fruit salad.
Both classics.
No,
we
but,
should do a podcast on Veggie Tales.
We should.
Yeah, you got this.
You're right. You're right. I agree.
All
I
right.
agree. But this is not focused on
Any
his
last
family
things
like
you want to
that.
touch on?
No, I was gonna say we should start wrapping it up.
All right.
Yeah.
Anything else you guys want to say? Oh, we should do the thing, the hat.
Oh yeah, we gotta do the hat for the next.
You want to choose it?
Milan.
Oh yeah, mine should choose.
All
Since
right.
never here.
So this concludes the actual podcast, and we're gonna do a drawing for next week's movie, which we have 10 movies in the hat. You know what we're gonna do if you've been here before.
Oh,
If not,
didn't we write it down? Oh, never mind. Yeah. never mind.
if not,
Alright,
we have
Sergio,
10
are you
movies in
ready?
the hat. We're gonna pick one out. It has a number on it, which corresponds to a list that Sergio has on
Train
his
spotting.
phone. Hold up your phone, Sergio. He has a list on his phone of all the movies, and there's 10 of them in the
Alright,
hat.
Milan,
and
you
we're gonna
ready?
pick one.
Yep.
For next
Don't
week.
look. Don't look. Train spotting,
Please.
please.
69.
What is it?
What
I
is
had a
it?
feeling you were gonna say this.
14.
14. What was 14?
The Godfather.
Godfather.
Hey.
Nice.
Alrighty.
Train spotting. Damn it.
Almost another 3-hour movie.
Yeah, it is almost.
No,
another
that is a
3
3-hour movie.
Really? I thought the part two was longer.
The second one's a 3-hour movie.
Are you
We'll check
sure
it
the
out.
first
Holy
one-
shit. This is gonna fuck it up.
But anyways,
Didn't you say you don't want to watch another epic?
I didn't.
You say you
think
want.
I had a choice? What? You think I just looked at the number and I was like,
Hey,
we should watch Godfather?
God wanted him to choose 14.
Right.
Alright.
Literally, most
speak
of the
for God.
movies are 3-hour movivies.
Yeah, that's true.
Memoirs of a Vacation, Godfather, are the
Yes.
only two that were in
No,
there that were 3 hours.
there's-
All right. Well, thanks for watching the podcast, everyone. Sergio, do you want to do an outro? Well,
I can't look into that camera anymore. Shit, I was supposed to look into that one, but I looked into this one.
Thanks for
It's over,
watching
it's
the
too late now.
Neighborhood Watch.
Thanks for watching
Biblecast.
GarageCast, the Bible cast.
Bible cast.
Tune in next time. I guess we're gonna be watching The Godfather. Are we doing that next week?
Yeah, next week.
Next week we'll be watching The Godfather. Watch it now. Load it up. That way you can know what we're talking about.
Load it up. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Yeah, exactly. And that's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed us ranting about nothing again.
Nothing relevant whatsoever.
Yeah, Kingdom of Heaven. Is there anything else you guys want to add before we sign off? No?
No.
All right, bye. I love you.